I don't know about you, but I think there's only one clear-cut option in terms of what should main event the WWE's latest PLE, Bad Blood. Of course, I'm referring to CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre inside the Hell in a Cell. Since its inception, the Hell in a Cell match has been designed as a feud ender and has provided fans countless memorable matches and memories over the course of its history. What's going on, pro wrestling fans? My name is Jose Ramos Jr. and join me on this week's 5 count as I discuss my 5 favorite Hell in a Cell matches in WWE history. But before I share my top 5 list here in regards to the Hell in a Cell matches, I do want to preface that this list in itself has a little bit of personal value to myself. It has bias, I will say. These matches that are selected on the list have personal meaning, but I think they also carry a level of significance in the industry as well. So at number 5 here, we have Hell in a Cell 2022, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. This match stands out for me because it was one of the first matches that Cody Rhodes had in regards to his return to the WWE after his excursion with AEW and the independent scene. But I look at it in the sense that between this point and Cody Rhodes' departure from the WWE, Hell in a Cell really was relegated to just another matchup. It didn't feel like a spectacle. It didn't feel like a feud ender. It just felt like filler. It felt like that matchup that was coming around at that point of the year, and we decided, okay, let's just throw these guys inside the cell. But this match, I feel, really warranted the stipulation. And on top of that, look at what happened during the course of that matchup. The image of Cody Rhodes with his torn pectoral tendon really stands out. It's one of those core memories when it comes not only to Hell in a Cell, but to Cody Rhodes as well. It helped define who he was as a character and certainly has elevated him to the point that he is right now. Now, I will say, in regards to the matchup, I remember seeing this match and wondering if it was the right call to have Cody Rhodes win. In that point in time, I was of the mindset that maybe Seth Rollins should have won the matchup. We knew Cody was going to be taking some time away from the ring to rehab his injury, and I feel like it would have benefited Seth Rollins more to have won the matchup, especially because he had gone 0-3 against Cody in this feud. But just the sure determination and the perseverance that Cody Rhodes was able to go through really stood out in this matchup. I love the presentation of Seth Rollins coming out in the polka dots as a way to pay homage, but also kind of mock Dusty Rhodes as well. The matchup itself I thought was great. It's another matchup that I always look forward to going back in terms of rewatching my Hell in a Cell matches, and that's why it is on my list here. Next, for number 4 on this week's top 5, I will say, when I talk about bias, when I talk about personal preference, this selection is there for that reason. I'm talking about Armageddon 2005. The Legend Killer, Randy Orton, takes on The Undertaker inside the Hell in a Cell. This matchup was the culmination of practically a year-long feud between the two. It had started in March of 2005, spanning WrestleMania 21, SummerSlam, No Mercy, Survivor Series, and of course ending at Armageddon. I'm a big fan of like the supernatural, spooky elements that the WWE presents because it's outlandish, because it's something different, and it's just entertaining. So to see the lead up to this matchup rather, and we have those Undertaker elements of how he's playing the mind games and psychologically torturing Randy Orton, it builds up anticipation for this matchup. And it really pays off because we saw the violence. We saw the viciousness from The Undertaker that not only resulted in the battering of Randy Orton, but of his father, Bob Orton Jr., which I thought was a great inclusion in the feud itself because it gave someone to bounce off with The Undertaker. Very much so how Paul Bearer came out with The Undertaker. Bob Orton Jr. played that role for Randy Orton. And of course, this would be the last Hell in a Cell match to have that classic structure where it wasn't oversized. It was a nice compact Hell in a Cell. A lot of the classic memories have taken place in that iteration. It would be the last time we had saw it. Also, I do want to point out that this was one of the earliest pay-per-views that I had bought as a kid growing up. I believe it was the second pay-per-view, only the SummerSlam 2005, that I saw live as a fan. We've now hit the top 3 in this week's top 5, and I will say, if someone were to pull me aside and tell me their personal favorite Hell in a Cell match, and it was any one of these 3, I could not make an argument. I think at any time of the year, it can be argued that these 3 matches have its place in that number 1 spot. But for now, at number 3, we have End of an Era, WrestleMania 28, The Undertaker versus Triple H. You want to talk about storytelling, right? We're talking about decades of history between three individuals. The two competitors, Triple H and The Undertaker, but the special guest referee in Shawn Michaels as well. And what I loved about this matchup, just in the sense of a story, it was the culmination of a 4-year journey that the fans were taking from WrestleMania 25 all the way to WrestleMania 28. And I like to make the argument that it really starts not in 2009 for WrestleMania 25, but it starts in 2007 during that Royal Rumble where it was The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels as the last competitors involved. Nonetheless, the presentation of the Cell coming down to Metallica, The Undertaker unveiling a new look that we haven't seen ever in his career. The matchup was brutal. It really gave you moments where you weren't sure who was going to win. There was a spot in this matchup, but I know you remember what I'm talking about, when Shawn Michaels super kicks The Undertaker, leading to Triple H delivering a pedigree, and the near fall was deafening. The crowd almost loses it. I remember watching it as a fan and thinking that was it. I thought that was going to be the end of the streak. Luckily, it would not. The Undertaker would kick out and eventually defeat Triple H. And the moment after the matchup where they're traveling up the ramp to close out their segment, chills, absolute chills. There are certain points in my mind where number 2 and number 1 are kind of interchangeable, but I think this is the consensus pick for me. At number 2, Hell in a Cell 1998, Mankind versus The Undertaker at King of the Ring. It's an all-time classic. I've always said that if I was going to show a non-fan of professional wrestling, this would be one of the first matches that I would show. Just the iconic moments that had taken place, whether it's Mick Foley going through the cell, getting thrown off the cell, the imagery of him smiling with blood coming out of his mouth and a tooth coming down from his nose, The Undertaker with the lore of him actually wrestling with a broken foot. So many stories to compact here within one match, but just the level of destruction and quite frankly, the athleticism that these two had to perform under during this matchup, it stands the test of time. I think it's one of the greatest pro wrestling spectacles of all time, not just in regards to the Hell in a Cell, but for the sense of a matchup. You really had a spot heavy match. I don't think it's really known as a 5-star classic, because at number 1, this matchup did get 5 stars. Of course, I'm referring to Bad Blood 1997, the very first Hell in a Cell matchup between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, 2 of the all-time greats battling it out inside a new structure. It was new at the time. No one knew what to expect, but you had arguably the greatest gimmick of all time, The Undertaker, versus, in my opinion, the greatest wrestler of all time in Shawn Michaels, and what would become one of the greatest stipulation matches in WWE history. It had everything you wanted. It had story. It had brutality with the chair shots and using the cell. Very innovative for its time. Obviously, we know it's the first Hell in a Cell matchup, but it would incorporate tropes that would be recognized and used throughout the whole entirety of its history. We're talking about chair shots, using the cell as a weapon, the whole escaping the cage, falling off of the cell, and then talk about the ending. The debut of Kane remains as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, pro wrestling debut of all time. So many memories, again, on top of memories, and I love the fact that this year's Bad Blood will be taking place October 5th, the very same day that this event in 97 had taken place. Very poetic if you ask me, and I go back and watch this matchup every now and then, especially when there's a Hell in a Cell on the horizon, and it just holds up. It's a great watch. If you haven't seen it for some time now, go ahead and rewatch the matchup between The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels in 97, and you will not be disappointed. And those are 5 of my favorite Hell in a Cell matches of all time. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment down below some of your favorite Hell in a Cell memories, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel to catch other videos such as these on the channel. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you guys for dropping by and hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys in the next one.